Welcome to the first episode of
The Queen's Podcast.
And for today, we will be analyzing and evaluating a novel that we just discovered recently. And we finished reading it just 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And that book is.
So it's George Orwell's famous book 1984.
Okay, so before we dig further about the overall of this book, let us first focus on the title itself. So, upon knowing the title, what are your assumptions about the book?
So, upon hearing the title, The 1984 by George Orwell, I thought it would make me think a lot and maybe feel uncomfortable. And I thought it would show how bad it can be when governments have too much control and don't let people have their own freedom.
It's deep.
You already know about that.
Yeah.
Just upon reading the title.
It's so deep. And for me, I think it's just when upon reading the title, I think it's about history because 1984, like a time, right?
Yes, I do agree with that because when I first read the title, it does not really pique my interest. Because although I used to love reading, but today I was not really fond of reading. But the title itself is just like too plain for me. It lacks the mysteriousness that I am looking for a book. Because 1984, it looks like a historical novel that talks about the significant events of that particular country on that time. So it's like a historical novel. But when I when I search about it, and I saw the poster of the book, and it has eyes on it, it made me question of whose eyes was this, and what's the purpose of those eyes? What does those eyes symbolize? And then the first thing that I learned about the novel is that it was written in 1949.
84.
No, 1949. Yeah.
Yes,
I thought also
yes.
that one.
Yes, because if you don't have the knowledge about it, you would think that it's 1984. But then it was written in 1949. So it would make you question why it was entitled as 1984 when it was written in 1949. So it made me it piques my curiosity, and yes, I started reading about it.
So for me, from the title itself, 1984, I already expected that the writer or the narrator in the story will eventually tell us something about 1984, that maybe there are certain events that are important in that storyline, that there are certain situations that happen on that year that affects the story.
Oh, so to give the brief review or the background informations about this book, especially for those who just heard this book for the first time, 1984 is categorized as dystopian novel, wherein it shows the world where there is a totalitarian government wherein the state authorities uses or abuses and exploit the power of the technology to control and manipulate the mind of the people. And that is one of the struggle that the protagonist is experiencing in that book, wherein Winston Smith is trying to know or to explore the truth behind everything, while the other people were unconsciously following what the government or what the party says. Even everything they are following and obeying, and they are just believing what the party says.
Yeah, that's right. But before we go further about this story, about the plot of the story, let us first go back with the concept of dystopian novel. Because I believe it is important to know these important details of the story to understand the wholeness of the book. Because some might be confused of what dystopian novel is. So dystopian is an adjective which means an imagined state where there is great suffering. Meaning to say, It is a futuristic world that is undesirable to live in. And in this context, George Orwell created or imagined a world where there is the government has the control to humans' life. Humans has no control over their feelings, over their emotions or decisions. They're just blindly following the government. And the government can see everything and can even manipulate those things. So George Orwell's write or have written this book to warn the readers about the horrors of the totalitarian governments, which is again he conveyed those messages through this book.
So now, since the whole plot took the place in a fictional society characterized with the excessive technological control and government oppression, while reading the story, I thought relating the Marxism Marxism theory of social classes with the different branches of party that exist in the story. So basically, these parties divide the populations, so in terms of roles, duties, and the privileges.
Yes, I agree with that. Because Oceania, the name of the country in the novel, it was divided into three parties according to the social classes. So for the ruling class, they are called the inner party, and the inner party comprises 2% of the overall population of the country. And those inner party members are considered as the brain of the states because they are responsible for creating policies, decisions, and basically they rule the whole country. And just like what the upper classes that we have in the reality, they enjoy and they live in luxurious houses. They have foods and drinks that have high quality, and just like the normal rich people, they have automobiles and lights.
Yeah, that's right. The social inequality between social classes is evident in the book. And because it says there that while the inner party have the richness and the spaciousness in everything, they have good food, good tobacco, and even they have rapid lifts or elevators that are very far or more advanced from the usual elevators that we have. And also, they have these maids that are described as white jacketed servants hurrying to and from, which means that they are living with a total conveniency. While, however, the outer party or the middle class, they have this 3,000 clothing coupons annually and only 6,000 suit pajamas. And basically, those are just there is an equality between the social classes in that area, in that part of Oceania, right?
Yes, in fact, they are considered as the most miserable class or parties among the other parties, including the lower classes or the working classes, which is referred to in the story as the pros. And the pros comprise 85% of the population of Oceania. And although they are treated badly, as we read through the book, they are treated badly. But ironically, they have more freedom than the middle classes. Why? Because they enjoy alcohol, gambling, sports, and even pornography, which are all the things that the middle classes are deprived of. But the question is, why did the party allow them? It is because they are considered as no importance. They are viewed as powerless. And as said in the book, they don't have the power to understand the world other than it is. Meaning to say, they go from generation to generation with just three main purpose or three main function: to work, to breed, and to die. They don't have any impulse within them to question the government. They will die without questioning the government and without questioning anything questionable in their society. So that is the pros.
In line with Marxism approach, I've read that there are two principles in this theory, and I observed that these principles are evident in the book. So first is that the reality itself can be defined and understood And this is manifested in how the reality do not just simply exist, but it's rather created by certain people, particularly those people in upper classes. So since Big Brother has the upper hand, so he has the power, the means, and he can easily create a reality that is in favor in him, a reality that is for his good and own gains, and people then. So the next one is that the society shapes our consciousness. And this is shown on how the party manipulates the minds of the people. They distort reality and make their own version of it, which then will be imposed to people. Of course, if you are seeing something constantly with your surroundings, in the books, in newspaper, dictionary, to every kind of literature, and even from language itself, you will believe that the truth will be instilled in your mind.
Okay, that's right. Because I have highlighted a line from the book that can relate with that. And it says that if all others accepted the lie which the party imposed, and all the records told the same tale, then the lie will pass into the history and it will become the truth. So meaning to say that if everything in your surroundings are telling the same thing, even if it is not the truth, then you will believe it. Because you don't have the capacity to learn the truth or to learn if it's to recognize if it's something is lie or if it's something is truth. So I think we have mentioned manipulation and control a lot of times since we started. And that is not surprising because psychological manipulation is one of the major themes in the novel. And but it's not the simple manipulation that you can think of. It is a high level of gaslighting and mind conditioning. And I myself was so shocked to learn how did the party did this manipulation and on the different tools, techniques, and platform that the party used just to manipulate or just to condition the minds of the Oceania's people.
So actually, I'm thinking the same thing because
Imagine a language that has a limited words or vocabularies so that people cannot recognize any words that has negative connotations against the party.
worse to revolt against them, right? So it's so shocking that the party manipulate people by creating new words, new meaning, or limiting words to have these limited words that can be that the party can gain benefits, right? And I think this is it is mentioned in the story wherein
Particular sign the philologist or the newspeak specialist wherein he mentioned that the goal or the purpose of the newspeak
is to eliminate the thought of the people wherein with that there will be time in the future that people will no longer commit thought crime because there's no word that can describe that certain idea. And in fact, this is one of the main goal of the use of the newspeak because with that the party can control the mind of the people since there will be a possibility of an independent thought. So with that, the people will be controlled to don't to stop thinking things that might be against with the party, such as the rebellion or the desire.
There is also a manipulation with the concept of sexual intercourse. So the party manipulates the minds of the people by means of transforming sex into duty. So in the story, the sex is discouraged except for producing children, and it is really unfair because the couples have to ask first for the permission of the party before they eventually tend to go to marriage. However, if the party recognizes that the two of them are really attracted with each other, the party will deny it. So it is really unfair, right?
Yeah.
So, and the reason for that, because the party tries to kill the human instinct. They tend to kill, and if they cannot kill the sexual instinct, they tend to make people realize that sex is actually ugly. And there are organizations like Junior Anti-Sex League, in which Julia, the black-haired girl, is a member. So they are successful in encouraging party women to perceive sex as ugly. And even Catherine, the strange wife of Winston, she also believed on that idea. And because they are husband and wife, they tend to have the sexual intercourse, but Catherine only did it with Winston once a week, and she believed that it is her duty to the party, not because she wanted, not because they are married. And Winston could not stand with that idea. So by transforming sex into a duty, it's strike a psychological blow to the individualism, because sex can also be called or can be considered as an act of representation. It can be an act of presenting or ultimate emotional or physical pleasure.
And the party was evilly strategic in a way that they created and popularized certain characters to make the people fear them and make them act according to their wants. So we have this character named Emmanuel Goldstein, and he was the primal traitor of the party. He was the enemy of the people. And he was described in the story as the person who denounced the dictatorship of the party. He was an advocate of freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and freedom of the thought, which are all acts that are against the party. So, what happened to Goldstein is he was condemned to death. But mysteriously, he was said to successfully escape and disappeared. But what happened to people like Goldstein, for people that go against the party? There is what we call as the 2 minutes hate. And this 2 minutes hate are the time where people express their hate and disgust to the enemies of the people, including Goldstein. So Goldstein was used as an evil figure to again to create fear to the people and to condition their minds that they should look at their enemies with such high level of disgust and hate. But more commonly, aside from these trial purges where they executed the enemies of or the traitors of the party, more commonly these traitors just disappeared and they just disappeared from the Sianas, and no one knows what happened to them. Even the readers don't know, even the characters in the story don't know, and they we cannot imagine what happened to them. So they were silenced and were never heard of again. So there was one line in the story that one never has the clue of what happened to them. And that says a lot about the fear that that Emmanuel Goldstein, that this character, that this primal traitor that the party created, and the 2 minutes hate created to the people of Oceania.
Indeed, through the party's deceptive or exploitative techniques, they were able to manipulate the minds of the people. However, now let us focus on the psychological state of a certain character. And the story started, revolved, and ended with Winston Smith, our main protagonist. He is a member of the outer party, and it is believed that the members of the outer party or those on the middle class can be more dangerous as they have the limited power mixed with their intellectual ability, and Winston Smith can be the best example for that. And let us focus now on the psychological manipulation and how Winston Smith perceived this as revealed in his behavior or his emotions.
And I've noticed that although the novel is written in third person point of view, it shows very well, even from the start, how Winston differs from other characters or from other people in Oceania. I personally think that he was very curious and aware of his surroundings. And unlike other people who just blindly follow and accept everything that the party imposed to them at present, Winston knew that something is wrong. He knew that something from his past had gone and something had changed. And we have these blogging moments where we think, or just in a moment, in random moment, we think that we forgot something, but we are unable to identify what is it, because those something or those facts are removed from our minds. It was um, changed or deleted from our schema. And that's what happened to Winston and from other people in Oceania. And again, he doesn't have the ability to recover those facts and to recover those memories, and the ability as well to establish these facts against the government. So what he did is just like other people, he followed the party. Physically, he was a comrade, but mentally, inside himself, he was questioning things. He was challenged, and he was part of the opposition.
So that's simply explain the concept of doublethink or the cognitive dissonance, wherein doublethink used by the party to control the mind of the people by making them able to hold on to two different contradicting ideas simultaneously. Where in this concept, the
In this matter, fear is a great tool to manifest double-think in the mind of the people, because fear can force people to do things against their will or to control them for them to be safe or for them to not to be punished, right? So people can have doubts with their party towards the Big Brother. However, because of fear, they are able to think or believe that party do bad things, but at the same time believe that party do good things also. And they were able to do things against their will. So in this concept, in this book, Winston, the protagonist, he was able to do or comply with the practices of the party, like recital of the party slogans, then rewriting the historical records in the Ministry of Truth. However, he was really against with the party, and just like him, Julia also, she was against with the party, right? But because she was afraid to be punished, she showed loyalty to the party, to Big Brother. However, she has this secret relationship with Vincent, and that's how fear can manifest double think in the mind of the people.
So although he had many questions of how the party do these manipulative things, he was aware that this concept are just multifaceted and oppressive system that party had created to control every aspect of individual lives, as this promotes blind obedience and total slavery of the people. In the story, it is visible that Winston is against the party, though he controls himself. It does not show it since he was always visible on the telescreen. So, however, he is definitely committing a top crime since he thinks things that are against the party and Big Brother. And he even questions and doubted the party. And in this case, he was secretly journaling his real thoughts, including the rebellious thoughts against the party, since he thought that this diary was safe for his background.
Since we're viewing the psychological lenses, in Furgen's point of view, Winston's character represents the mind, wherein the id is the driving force, and the superego and the ego were developed in the views of the party. Freud describes psychoanalytic process as something that is normally used to treat patients with mental disorders. And in the novel, the party somehow view Winston as someone who have this mental disorder. And Orwell shows this as Winston's id took over when he write the phrase down with Big Brother in his diary. And Winston's suppressed it drives him to act upon his thought and desire without filtering it into his superego and ego. So when he realized what he did, his superego suddenly kicks in and he became overwhelmed with the thought that he might actually be God.
In line with that theory, I think Winston's ego, the balance between his id and superego is his rational thoughts, his perception of reality. Because Winston is consciously aware with the society that he lives in. He knows that there are rules to abide in order for him to survive. And although these rules do not align with his beliefs, do not align with his principles, just like other people, he needs to follow it because he needs to survive. And he does his job. He participates in the hate week and he does what he needs to do in front of the telescreen. And that is his reality. And his conscious actions respond to it.
So then his superego, his morals. So Winston has developed these morals throughout his life because it started with how his parents raised him. So with this background, he believed that certain things needs to be corrected. So um, Winston brought up in a world before war, and he can still remember fragments of memories of him when he's still not being constantly watched by the telescreen. And with that, he does not believe that what the party is doing is right. Winston knows that the party changing the history, they are controlling the mind of the people to believe that to the things that aren't true.
So now that we're at it, we have mentioned the telescreen, Big Brother, and pros and the likes. And I believe that George Orwell used some great symbolism throughout the story. And first we have the telescreen, the television-like technology that are set up in every houses in Oceania. And these telescreens can be accessed by the party alone to keep tabs or keep eyes on the people. And this is used to see what the people are doing. Are they doing something illegal? Are they doing something against the party? Or are they using or bringing things inside their house that are considered illegal in Oceania? And therefore, since they want full control on these people, they installed this telescreen in order as well to spread their propagandas, because they also televise the 2 minutes hate throughout this telescreen. So what does it symbolize? So what does the telescreen symbolize? So it symbolizes the type of government that exists in the world that George Orwell has created. It symbolizes the totalitarian government, which has one dominant authoritarian state that holds the full control to the decisions, to the beliefs, even to the feelings of the people and the truths in that country. And this is connected with one of the major themes of the novel. The reason why George Orwell has written this political novel is to warn people about the horror of totalitarian government, which he personally observed on Stalin and Hitler, that's right. Hitler and Stalin.
Yeah.
And because these political figures are both dictators and tyrants who both suppress the opposition with brute force, controlling the media, the people, and the police and the government. Also remember the glass paperweight, because as said earlier, one of the psychological manipulations done by the party is through altering the past and changing or replacing them with their own narratives or truth, so that people will only believe on such account and nothing else, and it will be impossible for them to question the power of the government at the present, because they will just believe anything that the government tells them about how such things falls into place and why things came out this way. But since Winston has doubt with the purpose of the government or the party, he wants to recover his past. and he wants to create a bigger picture of his present surroundings through or with using his past memories. And with that, he bought um, a glass paperweight in an antique store. Again, bought, he bought, again, he bought a glass paperweight in an antique store, and it symbolizes his attempt to recollect his memories. But at the end, when everything is revealed, when he was captured by the thought police, this glass paperweight shatters on the floor. And this shows how his failure of making that attempt of recollecting his memories. And this shows that how whatever or shows and this shows that no matter how Winston tried to take full control of his memories, the government or the party can still find ways to corrupt his mind and to corrupt his memories. And this shows how powerful the party is, of how powerful the how powerful Big Brother is. That even the minds, which is already considered as one's greatest weapon, can do nothing against the government or against the party.
Meanwhile, hope is symbolized through the red armed-prone women. Winston always say if there is hope, it lies on the pros because he believes that those people whom the party has disregarded, that the party thought was nothing and can do nothing, that the party treated like inferiors, like animals, those are the people that can be the force that can destroy the party itself because majority of the pros do not even have telescreens on their home and the police do not interfere with them. They interfere but very little. And there's also a line in the novel. It says pros and animals are free. So Winston said that those pros also only need to be conscious of their strength in order to rebel against the party, that they should use or take advantage of the undertreatment and the neglection that they receive from the party.
Yeah, and apart from that, one thing that makes the narrations or the unfolding events of the story makes captivating and interesting is the use of the plot devices. And one of the evident plot devices used in this story is the foreshadowing, wherein the he uses Orwell uses the song Oranges and Lemon, specifically the last line, which is "Here comes the chopper to chop your head." That line shows or rebuilds something in the past, wherein it shows the execution of Julia and Winston. And the use of this song shows the future events wherein the party comes to chop the head of Julia and Winston. And through the use of this song, this song rhymes or this foreshadowing, the readers are captivated or interested to know what's the significance of this song, specifically that this was mentioned in the story many times.
So in addition to that, this manipulation of song made more impact in the reader's mind as this made the readers became more intrigued to know how this can affect the flow of the story. Specifically, when the story shows how curious Winston is to know about the history of the song, of that song, including the bells of churches, which is said that he had the illusion of hearing the uh, bells of lost London by just repeatedly stating the rhyme line, all the while that they were lemons say, the bells of the Saint Clement. You owe me 3 farthings, say the bells of Saint Martin. So it was curious. But when you said it to yourself, you had the illusion of actually hearing bells. Bells of a lost London that still existed somewhere or other, disguised and forgotten.
Foreshadowing is really evident in the story because Winston, when he entered the house of Mrs. Parsons, where her two children are chasing each other, those children shouted, "Traitor! Thought criminal!" And this foreshadows that later on, Winston will be declared as traitor and thought criminal in the book. But aside from that, one line that is repeatedly mentioned in the story is the line that O'Brien said to Winston, that we shall meet in the place where there is no darkness. And this foreshadows, and because it is repeatedly stated in the book, it became a source of hope for Winston, because for so long, he dreamed of that place, of a place where there is solace, where there is peace, and because of that, he thought that the place where there is no darkness would be it. And the author effectively used this line to make the readers believe that O'Brien might be really an ally, that O'Brien must be a friend to Winston, that he will save him from being the slave of the party. And in the end, yes, they met in a place where there is no darkness, but it turns out that it's a cell, that the lights were always on. That's why it has no darkness. It's a cell that put him on a hell.
So Winston struggled and remembering the past. There are flashbacks throughout the story. So Winston's memory emerged as the story progressed, and he remembered previous events from the past. So one example is the situation after the 2 minutes of hate session, wherein Winston thought that O'Brien sympathizes him. So just like what you said, the line, if there is, they will meet wherein there is no darkness. And the voice of that person that he dreamed of, it's O'Brien's. So he thought that he is an ally and he sympathizes him. So another flashback that is considered important in the story is Winston's flashback with his mother and sister. And with that flashback, he also kind of feel sad because he felt that he was the one to be blamed because of their death, because he felt that her mother and her sister sacrificed themselves for him to be saved. And another flashback is his memory of his father, their memory in a tube factory.
We are analyzing the novel in a formalistic way. I believe that as we read the novel, we are taking notes, or we are highlighting some lines that appeals to us. Especially some of it might contain figures of speech. And this became a habit of us as we are doing literary analysis or literary criticism throughout the semester. So
Yes.
for the simile, I have listed one, and it says, his tiny sister, clinging to her mother with both hands, exactly like a baby monkey, sat looking over her shoulder at him with large, mournful eyes. So it shows how Winston's sisters was holding on to his mother by comparing her into a baby monkey that is clinging onto his mom.
So metaphor is also included in the novel. So the line, the paperweight was the room he was in, and the coral was Julius' life and his own, fixed in sort of eternity at the heart of the crystal. So this is describing how the room above Mr. Charrington's shop was a safe space for both Winston and Julia, wherein they will have privacy and they feel secure. So another line that shows metaphor is, it resembled the face of the ship, and the voice too had a ship-like quality. And the author used this to describe the shape or the face of the people who posed the part.
So I have also the line. So it says, he seemed to be breaking up before one's eyes, like a mountain crumbling. So the author is describing Rutherford's, one of the former members of the inner party, aging to a mountain crumbling. So this shows how he was once a large man in a great shape, but isn't anymore. So the next line, so he clung to a brain like a baby, curiously comforted by the heavy arm around his shoulder. So this simile shows how Winston behaves before his torture scene.
Additionally, the book also uses the irony which was manifested in the line or the party slogan, which is "War is peace, freedom is slavery, and ignorance is strength," which this pushes the populations to hold on the contradictory thoughts, which was called as doublethink in the book, by weakening the independence and the independence and the strength of the individual minds, and forcing them to live in the constant state of propaganda induced by fear. The party controls or the forces the people to believe to whatever it decrees, even if it is entirely illogical.
Okay, so in line with the irony, I have also found one contradicting ideas in the novel, and it lies in the ministries and their supposedly function. Because we have the Ministry of Peace, but it is in charge with waging war. We have the Ministry of Love, but it is in charge in political torture. We have also the Ministry of Truth, but it is in charge in doctoring histories in order for it to be aligned with the propaganda of the government or the party.
So George Orwell, the author, also used allusion in his novel. So the line, "He would tie her naked to a stake and shoot her full of arrows like Saint Sebastian." This is an allusion to the Christian saint who was persecuted by the Roman emperor for converting Roman soldiers into Christianity. And if you would notice, 1984 generally uses allusion because it serves as a warning to those communist regimes like Soviet Union and those who control of the media or the public manipulation of the public perception. And just like how Soviets make people disappear because they somehow believe that those people are against to their political interests, 1984 shows how manipulation or erasing history creates a population wherein everyone is submitting to the government, everyone is doing whatever the government says.
So, well, I believe we have a fruitful discussions about the whole book. But can we focus now on the ending part, or what can you say about the ending? Or how do you feel about it? Is it good, or do you want to change its ending because you are so frustrated?
So for me to change the ending, so I think it's not. I don't want to change the ending because all parts of this story of 1984 is very important. So for me, the ending of the story, the 1984, it's really strong, but it's pretty sad. So it shows. It feels like. Uh, it shows how bad things can get under the powerful government that controls everything.
So for me, I am actually frustrated on how the story ended because I kind of expected that Winston will end the totalitarian regime, and if ever I was about to change the ending, I want the pros to be aware of their strengths and capacity, that they will be aware of their rights and they will help Winston in ending the totalitarian regime. However, it did not happen, and that's how life works. It doesn't always go according to what we want, and even though Winston is also eager in ending the regime, but then since the people are already brainwashed, no one is on his side.
So it's nice that you have different thoughts. So now let's share our realizations, or how does it remind you of something? Does it awakens your mind or something about you?
So for me, the realization after upon reading the 1984, it's like that we need to protect our rights and freedom.
So after reading the story, I also realized how lucky we are that we have free thought and individualism. We can do what we want, we can decide on whatever we want to, and we can marry someone we want to. Because in the in the story, they need to the approval of the party. But here in our world, we did not. We only did our parents' approval. So we are really lucky to be free, to have our freedom here. And however, there's also a sad realization that there are things that we cannot change. That there are things that is hard to achieve even if we are eager on doing that. And I also realize how ignorance can make people suffer.
Yeah, that's right. And because while reading the novel, I realized how scary it is to just live. Yeah, that's right. Because while reading the novel, I realized how scary it is to live in a world knowing nothing. I fear knowing nothing of the past, knowing nothing of the present, even knowing nothing of myself. And I fear living in a society or in a world where I just follow what the government says. And that's what I fear. I fear having a monotonous life. Because, yes, I am afraid of being deprived of knowledge. I'm afraid of being not being able to express things, even to feel things. And the worst of all, I fear that the future will be like that, will be what George Orwell has said. Because as I was scrolling in the book talk, I saw a comment that says, so 1984 is no longer a fiction. And that's when I realized it's awakened something in me that there is parallel lines between 1984, the Oceania, and the country that we live in now. Because today, the technology is progressively taking dominant function in our society. We are depending on it. I myself are depending on it. And if we are not able to use it wisely and appropriately, soon, in the wrong hands, it will control us. And another thing is that I realized that indeed everything in life is political. It roots and goes back in politics. And George Orwell has effectively conveyed this message to me because now I can't imagine or I fear what a bad government can do to us. That's why before we end this, we would like to pay our appreciation and gratitude to our heroes who fought for our freedom. Because
Yes.
Juliana and Winston Smith was not able to achieve that. The Oceania's people was not able to revive their freedom. We would also like to be thankful to our journalists.
Yes,
Yes,
right.
journalists.
Yes, that's right.
Journalists, the
Yeah.
news
Yeah.
writers,
Yeah.
the reporters, and other trusted media
Yes.
outlets and source
Yes.
media outlets because they are keeping us updated and they
Yes.
they
Risking
are
their lives.
yes, they're risking their lives just to provide us the truth, the
Yes.
things that are happenings in the surroundings and even the government. They are not afraid to criticize the government, and that is what the Oceania's people are deprived of. And for everyone, we hope that this book will bring fear to you. Fear in a way that you will fear what happened to Julia and Winston more than the fear that is repressing you or preventing you to speak up or to educate yourself and to go against something in any context or any situation if you must. Because Winston Smith was not able to do that.
So this is the end of our book review, and we hope you learned something from this episode, and we hope you realize something about the reality of life. So, Queens, which book do you want to read and analyze for our next episode?
I want A Little Life by Hanya, I think.
Little Life.
Yeah.
So for me, so we have 1984, so we should next the 1985. The 1985.
Why? Why 1985?
We have 1984, so
The sequel.
yeah, 1985.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I've heard in the TikTok that there is another book of 1984 and it's about
1985.
no, it's not 1985.
Yeah.
It's about the point of view of Julia
Yeah.
and what happened. Yeah, so that makes sense. But for me, since we started reading George Orwell's novel, which is 1984, why not let's have Animal Farm for
Yeah.
our second review? But that is depend on our viewers.
So if you have any recommendation, just comment the title of the story in our comment box.
Once again, I am Jenna Rose Pasinay.
I am Christine Marasigan.
And I'm Anna Marie B. Garcia.
And I am Hazel Ann Mercado.
And we are the Queen Podcast. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.